Hi, my name is Corey Minter, and I am with Trinity Employment Specialists. We are a travel nursing agency, and we staff for nurses all over the nation. We're located centrally here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but we staff everywhere around here right now. And right now is interesting what's happening in our industry. We're in July now, so we had COVID shoot up. Then we had a week where COVID was not an issue and we had riots. And then after the riots, we had all of a sudden COVID is this huge issue again. And I'm just trying to figure out what in the world to believe or what not to believe. And I think a lot of nurses are trying to figure that out too, because so when nursing shot up at first with COVID, all of a sudden we have crisis rates, hospitals are going to be slammed. And it was reported that they were slammed, but they weren't. There was no one in the hospital. And so now they brought the hospitals back, brought back elective surgery. We started to creep out of it, and now we've got a new surge of COVID is going crazy, and now we've got some hospitals offering COVID pricing again and then canceling their contracts again. We're doing the exact same thing that we did before. So if you're a travel nurse right now, you're probably wondering what in the world is going on. You've probably been in a situation where you've never experienced this before. A great example of it is normally in one of our MSPs, we're used to at least 1,000 job orders happening at any given time. And we are down to less than 99 right now. So the opportunities, there's a lot of travel nurses that is always depended on this industry and the salary that you get from travel nursing. And the reality of it is there are very few people that are able to take advantage of travel nursing right now, and they are likely going to be in a very specialized industry where there may or may not be an emergency rate. We keep hearing emergency rates, then they're yanked. Then we keep hearing emergency rates. It's really odd because you would think that the hospital were the ones that really truly knew what their census was. But they're reacting to the media because the media is saying it's jumping, but hospitalizations aren't jumping. And I think that everyone is trying to figure out what does this really mean, and we're waiting for it all to iron out. And here at Trinity, we're in this trying our best to be a leader in what's happening, and a lot of times we're trying to figure it out as well. I think everyone's trying to figure it out, even the hospital administrators. I'm friends with a lot of them. And I think they're trying to make sense out of what they're hearing from their executive managers. So this is a weird time. I get it. I understand. And so for this particular podcast, we want to talk about 6 travel nursing problems you might face and how to avoid them. Of course, we know that the number one problem you're facing is there aren't as many opportunities that are out there. So I'm going to start with the number one thing that is going to help our travel nurses during this time. It is paperwork. Let me tell you why. This is an interesting thing. We're trying to figure out why our nursing what can we do to help? What can we do to make sure that we get our nurses the opportunities? And this is a true story. We get emails from the hospital saying, "Hey, we need a new RN for this particular position." And because all of the staffing agencies, the travel nursing agencies, because they have just depleted in opportunities, they've got a ton of nurses begging them for work. So when we get an email saying, "Hey, listen, we've got a nurse in Texas and we're looking for an ICU nurse. Okay, all right. When we sent that over to Darcel, that we got that, before she was able to open it up, 3 to 4 minutes after that, there had been 30 submissions. So in a time span of probably 5 minutes, that nursing agency had already 30 submissions. And after you get past 10 submissions, like, they don't want to have to sift through more than that. So I'm guessing that we lost the opportunity somewhere in 2 to 3 minutes because all of them had already been submitted. So one of the number one things that I want to encourage you with is getting your paperwork in and being completely and 100% ready to be submitted. Because no longer does your nursing recruiter have the luxury of calling you and saying, hey, listen, I got an opportunity coming up. Can you go ahead and get your paperwork sent in? And then you've got maybe a day or so to do it. This doesn't exist any longer. And, I'm trying to even work with Darcel to learn new sales techniques to get nurses convinced that they are not going to be able to gain work unless they have all of their documents submitted in. It's really important. So if you're a nurse, it doesn't matter what clinic you're working with. It doesn't matter what agency you're working with, whether you're working with Trinity or whether you're working with 20 others. It's really important that you have your paperwork submitted in and working with your nursing recruiter to be ready to be submitted. And I think that is the number one thing that you can do to gain employment. There are not a lot of opportunities available, but at least be ready for what is available, because if you do that, you are going to be in the top 1 percentile of people being able to be submitted. Because a lot of nurses got spoiled that they were in such demand they could take their time, and that's no longer an option. The second problem is car problems when you're traveling. Before you head out on the road, one of the number one things that you cannot do is be late or be unreliable. And if you're going into a new area, well, good grief, if you have car problems, you're going to want to know how you're going to fix those problems. Now, luckily, you've got Uber, and for a relatively cheap rate, at least for a couple of days until you can get your car fixed, you can always rely on Uber to get you there. And that is great. But having that on your phone, having it where you can click the button and get somebody there in 3 or 4 minutes and then have them travel you wherever you need to go, it's really, really important. And, I was blown away. I was in the middle of Fortaleza, Brazil, and I think it's got to be the roughest city I've ever been in. Of course, I think that once I realized where I was at, I probably shouldn't have ever been there. But it's the second most dangerous city in the world, and it was nuts. And we got kind of stranded, and we had to have had a target on our heads for being robbed. In fact, it was really interesting that the small group that I was in, we actually had a good Samaritan come up to us and say, hey, listen, these people over here are looking at robbing you. You need to watch your backs. And so we were in a really rough city, but it's really interesting that quickly with Uber, we got somebody to get us in no time at all. We're in the middle of Brazil, in a city, and it actually worked. So I know that if it can work in Fortaleza, now they're picking us up on a skanky vehicle that you have to breathe exhaust the entire time. If you're an American, love that you're an American. Do not forget how great it is to live in this country. But making sure that you have a plan if your car breaks down is really important. That is very reliable, but also gaining access to a car place that you can trust, and where to send it. And doing some of that preparatory planning ahead of time before you get in that city, that new city that you're unfamiliar with, I think would be really helpful. If Trinity can help you in any way, I've got 4 other things here, but I just ran out of time. Give us a call at 918-622-2588, or you can visit us online at trinityemployment.com.